episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, Tekkadan is thrown into the grinder by Gjallarhorn as they have an epic battle with the Dawn Horizon Corps. It's about time we got our first major battle from the second season of Iron-Blooded Orphans. This week's episode was a mecha orgy of awesomeness. I really enjoyed all of it, especially because we got to see a lot of mobile suits that we have never seen before. We finally got to see the Gundam Barbatos Lupus go into action, not to mention Akihiro's Gundam. Akihiro is still my favorite character, and I absolutely love the design of his Gundam, the Gujin Remake Full City. This thing freaking wrecks. It's got 4 arms with 4 blasters, and it even has this giant clamp that it can pull from its back, which can completely cut a mobile suit in half. This episode right here just rocked. It was a very simple episode, but I think it's what the series needed. It was getting mired in all of this ridiculous techno jargon and political bullshit, and we finally got lots of great action this week. So what's the story in this week's episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans? Very simple, actually. Tekkadan and Gjallarhorn are getting ready to have an intense battle with the Dawn Horizon Corps, a group of space pirates. Originally, Gjallarhorn was going to be backing up Tekkadan with a lot of ships. They only give them 1. And of course, Orga realizes that this is probably some sort of trap. They're just there to be killed and be human meat shields. And of course, when they meet with the Dawn Horizon Corps, they are completely overwhelmed. Not to mention, the Dawn Horizon Corps is utilizing human debris, otherwise known as child soldiers, an element of Iron-Blooded Orphans which has always been prevalent from the beginning, but it's even more disturbing in this episode right here when you see Mikazuki flying around space just completely annihilating these children. It's disturbing and stark. You have to remind yourself what you're actually watching, because at first you're like, wow, this is some kick-ass mecha action, but it is completely disturbing when you think about the context. The best thing about this episode, of course, is just the high-octane action and getting to see the mobile suits themselves. Gundam Barbatos Lupus, I love the way they launched that thing from the catapult. It looks so ridiculous. Mikazuki in this episode, of course, is the killing machine that he's always been, and always just manages to look like he's dancing when he's fighting. And he almost goes into this like sort of weird autopilot mode. Every time they show him inside of the cockpit, he's just showing no emotion whatsoever. He's very much like a robot. Of course, this is something that has been carried over from the first season, but it's still a very disturbing thing to see. And like I said, there's also Akihiro, who just rocks so much in this episode right here. I really wish that he could be the main character. I don't know what it is about him. Maybe the fact that it is that he does just look like Guts from Berserk. Maybe it's the fact that he has one of the most unique Gundams that I've ever seen with a really cool color scheme and just some amazing weapons. I just think they put a lot of effort into designing his character, and for being a side character, he's just so damn awesome. Being that the fact that he is basically just a man of few words, he's not that deep of a character, but then again, Mikazuki's kind of the same in many senses. I also love the realism in this episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans. The fact that this battle is going on for so long that the mobile suits actually have to return to Tekkadan's ship to refuel, get some brand new weapons. Hell, Mikazuki even takes the time to have a freaking snack. It really makes this just seem all the more epic, especially because this battle probably went on a lot longer than this actual episode did right here. Other side characters in this episode that I think were really great, of course Eugene is still a fantastic character taking control of the ship. I really love the visual of him like flying through the Horizon Dawn Corps forces, and you get to see the blood coming out of his nose and actually like rising up in the zero gravity. It's a really crazy image. Shino, as always, is just a really fun character. He almost seems like he's having way too much fun when he's in a battle. His Ryusei Go Shiden is also really cool. There's also the character of Ride, the little kid, who is surprisingly badass in this episode. The way he fights is really brutish when compared to some of the other mobile suit pilots. He's like a freaking linebacker. The Dawn Horizon Corps also has their very own set of mobile suits, which are very unique. I don't know what their names are, but they have some really interesting designs, especially the leader, Sandoval. He has this giant mobile suit with these huge hooked sword weapons, which he uses to just cleave through mobile suits like a hot knife through butter. At the absolute peak of the battle, the Arianhod fleet from Gjallarhorn shows up to back up Tekkadan. These are the people that are involved with Rustal, Julieta, Eok, and of course that brand new mysterious masked villain who has almost 100% been confirmed to be Gaelio in this week's episode. They bring up the fact that he gets inflamed when he hears about Tekkadan and McGillis, and the fact that he seems to want to get McGillis personally himself. He also looks like he's going to have his very own Gundam frame, so we very well could be seeing the return of Gaelio. And the concept of this, I think, is really cool, because we now have two masked villains who are going to be doing battle with one another. That is going to be awesome. I'd say that this brand new masked villain and Akihiro are so far, I think, the most intriguing characters from Iron-Blooded Orphans. I don't know why, I just really like both of them. And this week's episode really hit at home. It was a good, epic mobile suit battle, most of the episode with action, and it just really worked. So what's the rundown on this episode of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans? This one right here was brutal and super fast-paced. You know, we've seen a lot of mobile suit battles over the years. A lot of them start to run together with how similar they can be, but something about this episode was really unique. Maybe it was the new mobile suit designs, maybe it was the fact that this was a very fast-paced battle. Not just the mobile suits themselves, but actually the battleships, which seem to move just as quick as the mobile suits sometimes. Maybe that's because Eugene is just amazing when he actually hooks his body up to that ship. Maybe it's just the fact that the new ships themselves look completely unique. I love the design of all of the big ships that Tekkadan uses now, especially that one massive one. It's definitely the biggest ship that they've ever had. It can hold multiple mobile suits and just about all of their weapons. It's basically a giant flying space fortress, like something out of frickin' Star Wars, and I absolutely love it. That and the fact that this episode just had some great mecha designs. Every single one is unique. They're all incredibly unique with what they can actually pull off. Some of them have these huge giant blunt weapons. Some of them have 4 guns at once. Some of them have giant clamps that will cut you in half. There's a lot of unique things going on in this episode, and it was done so with a lot of gusto and some fantastic animation behind all of it. Not to mention, the characters themselves are all fantastic. There's someone for everyone to get attached to and follow throughout the entire series. There's lots of political intrigue. This masked villain is really shaking things up for the series to finally have 2 masked villains in a Gundam. I'm just really gelling on all of this second season of Iron-Blooded Orphans, and without a doubt, this was the best episode of the series thus far. It finally got right back into the action, the story is moving forward, and it did so with a lot of great animation. Great, super entertaining episode right here. Make sure to check it out, Gundam fans. I honestly have no complaints with this episode right here. I really enjoyed it. I love the story behind it, all of the new characters, the mobile suits, the action, everything. I cannot wait to see how it's going to pick up in next week's episode. I'm giving this one right here a 5 out of 5. Check it out, Gundam fans. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans. Did you have a favorite scene from this week's episode? A favorite mobile suit that popped up? What do you hope to see from the rest of the second season of Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans? Thank you guys so much for watching this review. If you liked it, please give it a like, and I will see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.